I'm Dr. Lori. Welcome to What's It Worth? And we invited Frosty here today, and Laura. Hi, Laura.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Good. Where do you live?
I'm in West Enfield Township now, and originally from Berks County, which is where I brought Frosty from today.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you discovered this particular object.
Well,
Christmas collectible, of course.
It is a Christmas collectible.
Yeah.
Like I said, these are my parents.
Your parents?
My parents, Joan and Charlie. They passed away this fall.
Oh, I'm sorry.
After 70 years together.
Oh, wow.
They started dating when they were 16 years old.
Oh.
That picture was taken when they were 17.
Okay. What year is that picture?
This picture is October 1948. This was for my aunt and uncle's wedding.
Oh, okay.
And about 2 months later, right after my father turned 18, he proposed.
Oh, wow.
And they were married in April of 1951 at age 19.
Okay.
As the old man always said, to young, dumb kids.
Well, 70 years, they knew what they were doing. 70 years
didn't
together.
have two nickels to rub together. What were we thinking?
Okay. Well, they acquired this piece.
They acquired this piece. Like I said, my sister and I are in the process of cleaning out their house.
Okay. What are some of the problems that you're coming up against? Because I come in and appraise objects in people's homes all over the country, and I get there and they're all different types of problems. So the first problem is usually I don't get along with my sister. So is everybody getting along?
Yep. It's just my sister and myself.
Okay. So it's a big job.
It is a huge job.
Okay.
Like I said, they were together for 70 years. They were in their house for 60.
Okay.
My father built that house with his own two hands, and as he always said, a lot of help.
Right.
My late grandfather was a contractor. They had, they built the house.
Yeah.
And 60 years is
lot
of time. Is a lot of stuff.
Right.
So.
And even if you're in your house 5 years, it could be a lot of stuff. People have things. It's a lifetime worth of stuff, and sometimes it's from their mother's house or other people's houses. Okay.
Yeah. I have.
So what are the problems you're coming up against?
We are almost to the end of it. We're about 2 weeks from closing on selling the house.
Okay.
And
so you sold the house.
We sold the house, and
how did you identify what was valuable in the house? Because everybody's focusing on selling the house, and sometimes the stuff in the house, when you add it all up, is worth as much as the house.
Well,
how did you actually identify value in your family heirlooms, collectibles, objects in the house?
Well, we don't have a lot of family
right
heirlooms.
There I'm going to stop Laura. Yeah. Everybody says, we don't have a lot, there's not too much, but wow, it was 70 years of us in the house, right? Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden, well, we didn't have that much and we had to get rid of it and we had to sell the house. You've got to think about what's in the house too. Did you take what you wanted?
Most of it.
Most of it.
Most of it.
Okay.
There are a couple of pieces that are just way too big.
Way too big.
And neither my sister nor myself have room for them.
Okay.
We have, like I said, my late grandfather was a contractor, and he had these giant tool chests from
big things,
like the 20s and the 30s, one of which he repurposed into a cedar chest for my mother.
Oh, okay. So some big things might be just too problematic, or you might say, this might be the type of thing they say, I really want this, and down the road I might be able to accommodate it. Maybe it's something that I should put in storage.
Right.
As opposed to just letting it go.
That's true.
Let's talk about this. How did you acquire this? So you got it from from your parents.
I do not know the story behind Frosty.
Okay. Did you always call him Frosty?
I've always called him Frosty.
Okay.
This thing has not been out of my parents' basement. I'm 48 years old. Mm-hmm. I have never seen this thing out of the basement. He's always been hanging on the same peg on the same wall of the basement.
So he didn't come out every Christmas?
He did not.
It's a good thing, because if you plugged him in, you probably wouldn't have the house to sell.
Yes, that is very true.
This is when you actually will fold a plug. And this particular plug, and actually the shape of the plug, helps us to identify the time period of this piece. So that's very helpful. If you look at this particular plug and you see how circular it is, this plug is probably from the latter part of the 1940s into the 1950s. So very close to when they were married.
Okay.
Might have been on that peg from the day they walked in that house. But you don't want to plug this in, because all of these wires, of course, are now exposed and will start a fire.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we really, really don't want to do that.
No, of course. No one wants to do that.
But
so Go ahead.
I said this is the first time in at least 50 years he's been out of that basement. I mean, my sister.
Well, he's so excited to be here in the studio.
my sister's 18 years older than I am, and she remembers it outside.
Right. It dates. Now there are a couple of reasons why we can date it that. The plug is one of the things, and most people say you can identify something from the plug. Yes, from the plug. So the electrical plug is going to be one of the things that will help identify it. The other thing has to do with this shape of these eyes, which in advertising is very, very popular. Actually, first is introduced with Felix the cat. Felix the cat, circa 1930s. These date to about the late 40s, early 50s. Now, the other thing you're seeing here, of course, is the dog with, of course, the circle around the eye.
Spanky and Argyle.
Yeah, very, very typical of the 1930s into the 40s, but late 1940s into the 50s. Noel, so he's singing, and he's one of many. Okay. He's probably one of 4 or one of 6 that would go on the lawn as a lawn ornament. So they would have different music, they'd be holding different music, and they would actually go either out on the lawn. Now, remember, you have to get into suburban America. So people are saying, what do you mean? World War II, post-World War II, post-1945, when, of course, we all moved to the suburbs, okay? So you have the Levittowns are building up, and the lawn becomes a place to show your stuff, all right? Okay. At Christmas time, these pieces are going to be those lawn ornaments. Okay. And they, at 50-year cycles and 100-year cycles, become very, very popular and collectible, because Americans collect in 50 and 100-year cycles. So your piece dates to, again, that time, post-war America, where we are putting all these things out and showing everything, how beautiful our homes can be made in the suburbs, in of course, the small suburban towns outside of major cities. The other thing that you're looking at is how, of course, the color is applied. Okay? So you'll notice that there are indentations, and then the color actually goes over the indentation. Happens here, happens here, happens here. Okay? That's what you're seeing. And then a little bit, the green scarf with the little polka dots, for example, different. So this particular piece is highly flammable. Okay?
Good to know.
Good to know. So basically, the fact that it's been down in the basement for all those years, highly flammable piece, you want to be aware of that and careful of that. The cardboard on the back is actually early medium density fiberboard, or MDF. I like to call it glued together sawdust. Okay, that's basically what you're looking at here, which also introduced, of course, post-war America. How much do you think it's worth?
I have no idea.
Do you have any others? Any of his friends? Do you have an elf or maybe,
nope.
Another snow woman kind of thing?
He has been alone and lonely all this time.
Lonely on that peg in the basement.
Except, when I was a kid, I used to go down and say, "Hi, Frosty."
Hi, Frosty. There he is. There's Frosty. Value on Frosty is just about $50.
Okay.
Yeah, he's worth more at Christmas time.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And basically what you're looking at, Laura's piece gives you an idea about when to sell something. So we start a conversation about, when do I sell this? Any kind of Christmas collectible or holiday collectible, not necessarily Christmas, but at the end of the year, would sell better between November 1st and January 1st. You get into July, Frosty doesn't have as much of a market.